मन की बात।
GST Council reduces tax rate for electric vehicles from 12 to 5%. EV chargers also cut from 18 to 5%. Exemption from GST for hiring of electric buses by local authorities. Finance Minister chairs the 36th GST Council through video conference. Top Jaish terrorist Munna Lahori gunned down in Shopian. Munna Lahori, hailed from Pakistan, was involved in a series of civilian killings in South Kashmir. In Machil sector, one jawan is martyred as Pakistan violates the ceasefire again. All stranded passengers of Mahalaxmi Express evacuated successfully. The train was held up near Badlapur in Thane due to waterlogging on the track. Heavy rains continue to lash Mumbai. The Met Department predicts scattered heavy rainfall in several parts of Maharashtra today and tomorrow. Special CBI court sends businessman Satish Babu Sana to 5 days of remand, and the Enforcement Directorate had arrested Sana in connection with a money laundering probe against Moin Qureshi. And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu confers the first Democracy Awards instituted by the State Election Commission of Maharashtra, advocates reservation for women in Parliament and state legislatures. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis says one nation, one election is the need of the hour. Our top story, the high-powered GST Council today decided to reduce the tax rate on electric vehicles to 5% from the existing 12%. So the new rate will be effective from August 1. And the council has also slashed the goods and services tax on EV chargers, and this will be from 18% to 5%. Well, the 36th meeting of the council was chaired by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and done so by a video conference, and the Minister of State for Finance Anurag Thakur was present during this meeting. The council approved the GST exemption for hiring of electric buses by local authorities. In Maharashtra, rescue teams have safely evacuated all passengers of the Mahalaxmi Express. The train had been held up near Badlapur in Thane district since last evening, and this is because of water logging on the tracks. Now, what's happened is that the train was carrying 700 passengers, and the NDRF, State Disaster Management, as well as Railway Protection Force, Fire Brigade officials, they were all pressed into service to rescue the stranded passengers. Relief materials like food packets and other essentials were provided to the passengers. The rescue teams used boats to take the passengers out of the train and to shift them to safer places. Flood rescue teams from the Navy, and these included divers, they were also part of the rescue operations. The Western Naval Command was keeping a close watch on the situation. It was in constant touch with the administration, and also the Chief Minister had asked, he had instructed the Chief Secretary to take a personal account, monitoring the situation, monitoring all the rescue operations. So the Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, Nityanand Rai, had also spoken to the Chief Minister to take stock of the situation. The Railway Ministry announced that the passengers of the Mahalaxmi Express will be taken to their destinations by a special train, some special coaches, some special buses. Now, this special train will have 19 coaches. It will leave from Kalyan to Kolhapur with the passengers.
सब लोग लगभग रेस्क्यू कर लिए हैं। सभी यहाँ पर लोग काम कर रहे हैं। एनडीआरएफ है, टीडीआरएफ है, यहाँ की लोकल रेस्क्यू टीम है, नेवी है, एयरफोर्स है, रेलवे के सब सीआरपी और जो भी सब लोग यहाँ पर उपस्थित है। लोकल लोगों ने भी काफ़ी बहुत सहयोग किया है और अभी लगभग सभी लोगों को बाहर ट्रेन से निकाला है और सभी लोगों को कई जगह पर बोट से लेके जा रहे हैं, कई रोप के माध्यम से उनको रस्सी की उसे बांध के वहाँ लेके जा रहे हैं, वहाँ उनको साथ में सहयोग करके, और ये सभी यहाँ पर इंतज़ाम किया है।
थोड़ी सी पैनिक की सिचुएशन थी। अच्छी बात ये थी कि रेलवे के अथॉरिटीज़ और आरपीएफ के लोग
ट्रेन में पहले से मौजूद थे वो लोग पहुंच चुके थे। एनडीआरएफ को रेस्क्यू क्योंकि करना था और लोग सामान के साथ जाना चाहते थे, तो एक प्रोटोकॉल के हिसाब से जो हमारा एसओपी है उसके हिसाब से हम लोगों ने लोगों को समझाया और बोला कि हम बोगीवार हम लोग हर बोगी से निकालेंगे। 6 घंटे से 8 घंटे का ऑपरेशन लगातार रहा और अभी ये स्थिति है कि 700 लोग जो कि रेलवे के चार्ट के हिसाब से जो टिकट रिजर्वेशन वाले पैसेंजर्स थे वो, और जो रेलवे का कहना है कि 150 से 200 और लोग अनरिजर्व बोगी में होंगे, तो इस तरह से 900 लोगों को सक्सेसफुली इवैक्यूएट किया जा चुका है।
हमारे गृह मंत्री जी की दूरदर्शिता के कारण, हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के कुशल प्रबंधन और प्रेरणा के कारण आज संभव हुआ है। जैसे ही सुबह में गृह मंत्रालय को सूचना मिली, तुरंत हमारे गृह मंत्री जी के निर्देश के अनुसार सारे अधिकारी संबंधित सभी विभागों के अधिकारियों से संपर्क में आ गए। उस मॉनिटरिंग के कारण आज बड़े ही हम हर्ष के साथ और गर्व के साथ कह सकते हैं, गृह मंत्रालय ने अपने माननीय गृह मंत्री के नेतृत्व में लगभग 900 लोगों की जान बचाने में कामयाब हुआ है और यह गृह मंत्रालय की सफलता है।
Well, heavy rains and waterlogging have thrown normal life out of gear. Our correspondent Shishir Shella took a look at the situation. He's filed this report.
Due to heavy rainfall in Mumbai since yesterday night, the Mumbaikars are facing trouble here. Of course, the vehicular movement have been stopped here and railway has also been stopped, especially the central railway have been stopped since yesterday. But right now, since morning, the rain has stopped here and that's the reason the Mumbaikars have got breather here. But apart from Mumbai, the adjoining areas like Thane district, Palghar district, also Kalyan, Bhiwandi, these are the areas we are witnessing a very heavy rainfall. Yesterday also these areas received quite a good rainfall. In spite of that, in these areas, if you look at the entire operations carried out by the local authority there, as well as the NDRF team have also been reached on the spot. One of the train which have been stuck between Wangni and Badlapur, all the people have been rescued from that spot as well. But in spite of that, due to heavy rainfall, now the people have been stuck in these areas here, water have been locked, and that's the reason the vehicular movement have been stopped in these areas, as well as the train have been, especially the train tracks have been submerged under water, and that's the reason the movement is not possible in these areas. Well, of course, the government keeping a close tab on it, and that's the reason have been deployed the officials, also the NDRF, the Indian Navy and the Army have also been told to keep a close tab on this area. If required, they can carry out the rescue operation whenever required. The IMD has also predicted a very heavy rainfall in Mumbai and adjoining areas, especially in the Konkan region, and that's the reason the next 48 hours quite crucial for the Mumbai and the Konkan region as well. With camera person Navin Paul Shirishla for DD News, Mumbai.
And heavy rains continue to lash Mumbai, as Shishir was saying, and adjoining suburban areas with waterlogging in several areas affecting normal life. The Mumbaikars have been witnessing heavy to very heavy rainfall accompanied by strong winds and lightning. This is happening since yesterday. It's led to waterlogging and traffic congestion at several spots. Non-stop rains in Mumbai, Navi Mumbai, Thane and other suburbs. This has led to flooding in residential areas. The police have requested commuters to avoid waterlogged areas and also to maintain a distance from the sea. So the BMC officials are on alert. They have alerted locals also not to step out unless necessary. Meanwhile, due to heavy rainfall and compounded with overflowing Ulhas River, this has resulted in waterlogging at Ambernath, and about 20 trains have been terminated and about two trains were also cancelled. So the Met Department has predicted scattered heavy rainfall in Raigad, also in Thane, Palghar, some other places, Ratnagiri, and also extra heavy rainfall at isolated places across Maharashtra. This is going to happen both for the rest of today and tomorrow. Shishir is joining us with an update. Shishir, when we saw your report, you were saying that things are slightly better, but what's the situation like with heavy rains predicted? How are people gearing up for it?
Well, absolutely, Mark. As per the IMD department, it said that the next 48 hours, the Mumbai and the adjoining area of Mumbai, along with the Konkan coast, will receive very heavy rainfall here. That's what we're predicting by the IMD here. But keeping that in mind, the authority have already given a warning to all district level authorities here, and they said that all the personal special officials need to be on alert in case of any untoward situation, just like what we have seen today here. But instead of that, at various locations, especially in the Konkan region, you see The train services has disrupted for a few minutes here. In spite of that, that we got some of the important news, especially from the Shopian belt here, where a couple of trains have been halted at different locations here as a precautionary measures, because some of the rivers, especially in these areas, have been overflowing, and that's the reason. Keeping that in mind, the authority have taken a call to stop these trains at a particular station here and not to move ahead. So that kind of precautionary measures have been taken by the authorities. At the same time, the NDRF also, the Indian Navy also, and the Army also have been put on alert that wherever they get a stress call, they should reach there as soon as possible.
Right, Shishir, we're having a little problem with the audio quality, but you know, the 700 passengers who were rescued from the Mahalaxmi Express, have they begun their onward journey now?
Well, Mark, at around 6 o'clock, the train will leave from Kalyan station. That's what we got the latest news here, saying that those who want to continue their journey to Badlapur from Kalyan, they can continue the journey with the special train. That's the arrangement done by the Indian Railways here. And those who want to come back to the Mumbai, they can board the buses here. Nearly 14 buses have been deployed for those people who are stranded in the train. So obviously the precautions have been taken by the
We regret that we had that audio disturbance with our correspondent Shishir, but he says that the people who were rescued from the Mahalaxmi Express will be making their onward journeys to different places at 6 p.m. today, and they have been provided with an alternative train as well as buses for those who need to make those journeys. Moving on to our next story, in a major success of this is for the security forces in their anti-terror campaign, a topmost Jaish terrorist was gunned down in South Kashmir today. The terrorist, identified as Munna Lahori, hailed from Pakistan. He was eliminated along with his local associate in Shopian after a night-long operation. The slain terrorist had been responsible for that partial car blast that struck the security force convoy in Banihal that happened in March of this year. He was also responsible for another fatal car blast. This is on an army vehicle in Arihal. This happened in Pulwama and in June. And in a tweet, the Jammu and Kashmir police said that Munna Lahori had an expertise in IED making, was responsible for a series of civilian killings in South Kashmir region. It also said that the JEM had used him for recruiting of terrorists. And an army jawan was martyred in the Machil sector. This is in North Kashmir's Kupwara district. This happened when Pakistani troops resorted to unprovoked firing, and defense sources said that the Pakistani forces had attacked the army's posts in Machil sector in the morning, leading to injuries to a soldier, and the critically injured soldier later succumbed at the hospital. Well, the Indian side responded in a befitting manner to this ceasefire violation. A special CBI court in Delhi today sent the businessman Satish Babu Sana to 5 days of remand, and he was produced before that court by the Enforcement Directorate, and they had arrested him on Friday. This is in connection with the Moin Qureshi money laundering case. The ED had sought a 14-day remand for Satish Babu. He was arrested under provisions of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The ED had registered a criminal case under the anti-money laundering law against Qureshi in 2017 for alleged corruption and connivance with government officials. It was Babu on whose complaint the Central Bureau of Investigation, that's the CBI, had registered an FIR on charges of corruption against its former senior officials Rakesh Asthana and Alok Verma. The Vice President of India, M. Venkaiah Naidu, conferred the first Democracy Awards instituted by the State Election Commission of Maharashtra. The Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis was present at the occasion, and the Vice President called India a place which gives importance to women because we call Bharat Mata. He also, in fact, congratulated Maharashtra government for granting 50% reservation for women in local bodies. He advocated reservation for women in parliament as well and state legislatures in the future.
And even the country's name also, we call it as Bharata Mata. We don't call Bharata Pita. We call Mother India. We don't call Father India. Why? Because that's the importance given to women. They are 50% of the population. That's why even you look at the rivers, Godavari, Narmada, Tapati, Mahendra Tanaya, Kaveri, Krishna, all names are after women only. That is the importance our civilization is given. मैं चाहता हूँ आने वाले दिनों में स्थानीय ये तो इकाइयों में तो हो गया, विधानसभा और संसद में भी महिलाओं के लिए आरक्षण होना बहुत जरूरी है.
The Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis highlighted the importance of one nation, one election, and issue which is talked about by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And he also said that different parts of Maharashtra go into the code of conduct for around 250 days in a year, which disturbs the administration. It also hinders the process of development.
उस समिति ने जो रिपोर्ट दिया, उस रिपोर्ट में महाराष्ट्र में ये ध्यान में आया कि एक साल में 250 दिन, around 250 days, there was a code of conduct in some or other parts of the state. तो अगर 365 दिनों में से 250 दिनों तक हम कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट रखेंगे, it may not be pan Maharashtra, it may be in some district or other, but it affects the entire administration, it affects the entire process of development.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad. This is the program Mann Ki Baat on All India Radio. It will be at 11 a.m. tomorrow. The Prime Minister has been speaking on various important issues through the monthly program, which is aired on the last Sunday of every month. And the Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, today visited the Safdarjung Hospital in Delhi. He will inaugurate the special OPD for old persons, and that will be functional every Sunday. The doctors at the OPD, they will be treating geriatric cases. The minister inspected the new emergency department and super specialty block and held a meeting with concerned officials as well. The minister also will launch several health facilities and a significant meeting with the heads of the new AIMS at Nirman Bhavan. Also the research on reasons for various diseases and ways to prevent them, besides other issues, were discussed at this meeting. And as we know, today is the raising day of the CRPF, and let's go across to India Gate where there is a function. Well, that was a band playing on the occasion of the Raising Day of the CRPF at India Gate, paying tributes also to the Central Paramilitary Force personnel at the India Gate. Moving on to our next story. Hundreds of people paid floral tributes to the former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam on his 4th death anniversary in Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu. People from all walks of life, students, representatives of political parties, made a beeline to the Kalam National Memorial where his burial site is located, and also paid their homage by placing wreaths and lighting candles. They did so since the morning. Ramanathapuram District Collector K. Veera Raghav Rao, senior revenue officials, also besides scientists and DRDO people, they were all there paying homage at the memorial. Let's get you some international news. Hong Kong police have fired tear gas at a protester rally, and these people were marching through Yuen Long, and it had got agitated at that point. The dissenters were condemning this is an assault. They were condemning an assault on pro-democracy protesters by armed men last week, and the residents of Hong Kong have been demonstrating for democratic reforms, also for the withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill by the government. Well, the government has actually put that bill on a halt. That legislation has been halted, but despite that, these protests continue. The US President Donald Trump on Friday vowed substantial retaliation against France. This is for attacks hitting US tech giants, accusing his counterpart Emmanuel Macron of foolishness. He also issued a veiled threat to impose tariffs on the French product of wine, which is world famous. But the French have continued. They vowed to say that they will continue that. But you know what Trump has, in his anger, he has tweeted in response to the French plans to tax multinational companies like Google, Apple, Facebook and Amazon. The French authorities argue that the firms pay little or no tax, corporate tax, in other countries where they are not based. And this is the problem. So the Trump administration says that any tax on them is unfair to these US companies. But the French, as I said earlier, they say that they will go ahead with the digital tax. And that's what they are doing. They're going ahead with this digital tax. That's what France has said. The French economy minister said universal taxation of digital activities is a challenge for France. And the French have added that they want to reach an agreement on this at the G7 as well as the OECD. In the meantime, France will implement a national policy and will implement all its decisions. So a trade war now between France and the United States. Moving on to our next story, 8 people were killed and dozens injured when a series of earthquakes struck islands in the far northern Philippines early today, toppling historic buildings and sending terrified locals fleeing their homes. The tremors hit the province of Batenas, which is a group of sparsely populated islets north of the nation's largest Luzon island, and tearing deep cracks in roads. It forced the evacuation of a hospital. The authorities said that some of the dead, including 2 babies, had died under the walls that crushed them, their own home walls, in fact. And many people were still asleep when the first tremor struck in the early hours. So what does the US Geological Survey say? The biggest of these 2 quakes, that's 5.9 and 5.4, struck within hours of each other. A heat wave across Europe has retreated a little bit, slightly, on Friday. This is after a record-breaking temperature in Germany, France and Belgium. The weathermen have forecast unusually high temperatures will continue to prevail during the weekend. The United Nations has warned that the heat wave will further stretch all the way across the top of the globe. Now, it says that the impact of the rising temperatures would now be felt in Greenland as well. And this is a cause of great concern because of environmental damage. It has raised concerns that the changing weather could cause record melting of the world's second largest ice sheet. The Greenland ice sheet, it covers about 80% of Greenland, and if all of it is melted, it would raise the sea levels by about 7 meters. The soaring temperatures also affected Britain and the Netherlands. Our next story. With Britain's departure from the European Union due in less than 100 days, it seems now that the new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has a contingency plan at hand. The speculations of early elections started making the rounds after Johnson met with local police officers in Birmingham yesterday, and he talked about a promise to recruit 20,000 more police officers. But Boris Johnson, however, ruled out calling a general election due to a turmoil in the political arena. He said that the British people didn't want another vote at present. They wanted Brexit delivered by the 31st of October.
I can give you an absolute card. The British people voted in 2015, in 2016, in 2017. Why on earth? What they want us to do is deliver on their mandate to come out of the EU on October the 31st. They don't want another electoral event. They don't want a referendum. They don't want a general election. We want to come out of the EU on October the 31st. That is what we're going to do.
The Union Territory of Chandigarh's Cricket Association was registered in 1982, and since then various attempts were made to get its affiliation, and now it has been affiliated. After nearly 4 decades, Chandigarh has finally received affiliation from the Board of Control for Cricket in India, and it provides an opportunity for city cricketers to play in the BCCI tournament. And this is the Union Territory Secretary of the Association, President Sanjay Tandon, in fact, speaking on the occasion.
हमारी जो एसोसिएशन है लगभग 38 साल से काम कर रही थी और हर स्तर के ऊपर इस कार्य को करने के लिए कोशिश करी गई, परंतु मुझे ये बताते हुए खुशी हो रही है कि शुक्रवार शाम की जो बीसीसीआई और सीओए की मीटिंग के अंदर जो चंडीगढ़ के लिए यूटीसीए जो यूनियन टेरिटरी क्रिकेट एसोसिएशन ऑफ चंडीगढ़ है उसको मान्यता दी गई है।
Thank you very much for being with us. Namaskar.